So there's a technique that I really love to use with contact forms or inquiry forms, usually inquiry forms, especially on business websites, and that is to put the form inside of a lightbox or a modal. Now, I hate the word modal, so I'm just going to say lightbox all the time. But the reason I put the form inside of a lightbox is for a few reasons. Number one, it makes it easily accessible from any link on any page. Number two, you don't have to send people to another page. Like, so they're on a page like a service page, for example, or a landing page or a service area page. They raise their hand, they say, "Hey, I would love to, book a demo, get a quote, whatever the call to action may be." You don't send them to another page. You just open the lightbox, present them with the form. So it's easier and it's higher converting in my experience. So when people are presented with that form, and the way that a lightbox or a modal works is that it darkens the rest of the page, it brings the form into view, it kind of isolates the experience. So they're more inclined to actually follow through and take the action versus if you send them to another page, it's just a form embedded on a page, which they've seen many, many times before. And there's a lot of other distractions, like nothing is darkened, nothing is brought into focus for them. So I just find that the conversion rates are higher when you put the inquiry form inside of a lightbox. And then you also have this unique ability to track conversions better. And the reason is when you use, and I'm going to show you this in the tutorial here, when you use a form that allows you to pass the URL string of the page that the form was submitted on into the submission, basically every lead that comes through that inquiry form or contact form or whatever you're using it for is going to have the URL that the page of the page that it was submitted on attached to it. So you're going to get to see just from that basic kind of like tracking which pages on your site are delivering the most leads. So it's a really powerful technique for a bunch of different reasons. I'm going to show you how to build it natively in Oxygen. You don't need any other plugins except for a contact form plugin. Now I'm using WS Form, and I'm going to tell you in the tutorial why I'm using WS Form and why I think it's one of the most powerful form options for WordPress and why its integration with Oxygen is so great. But you can use a number of other forms. I like Fluent Forms, but again, I'm going to show you the tutorial here, how to build this from scratch. We're going to talk more about why to do it, and I'm going to help you make it look really good as well, right? After all I said, we're going to build a slick modal form in Oxygen. So let's go ahead and jump into the tutorial. All right, guys, let's go ahead and dive right in. We're going to be making a lightbox CTA form. And as I said in the beginning, I really love these forms because they're high converting forms. They allow you to track leads from specific pages versus routing all of your traffic to a contact or get a quote page or what have you. I don't have a design that I'm working from, but I have something in my head that I kind of want this to look like. And I think you're going to learn a lot along the way as we build it. So what I did is I just created a page here, and I threw in a bunch of default Oxy Ninja Core design set things like a hero section, a header, and mainly because I wanted to put all these get a quote buttons in here because this is kind of how it would look on a normal page flow. And I'm going to show you how to trigger this lightbox from these buttons and links, which is why this is such a powerful technique. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We are going to start by adding the Modal module in Oxygen. So I'm just going to type Modal or Modal. I don't know how to say it, so I'll just say lightbox a lot in this tutorial. And one thing is you want this window to be at the bottom. And I do want a disclaimer here. I would normally be building this in the primary template for the website, not on a specific page, because I would want this to be accessible to any page. And if you want it to be accessible to any page, it needs to be in the primary template. So that is just, one difference between how I would do this in real life versus how we're doing this in the tutorial that you definitely need to take note of. All right, so because it's one element and it's going to be in a primary template most of the time, I'm not going to assign a bunch of classes to it. I'm just going to style the IDs, especially for the sake of this tutorial, to help speed things up a little bit. But I'm going to go to advanced size and spacing. I'm going to change the width from 70% to 100%, and I'm just going to put a max width on it. And that's going to take care of responsiveness. So we're going to go check down here. Now, the only thing is, because this is a Modal and it's like outside of the normal section, you see that it's going to touch the edges when we do a max width thing, right? So if I go back, we can see that there's plenty of space on the left and right, but as soon as we break down to here, we're touching. And so at this point, I just want it to be like 90%. And then that'll take care of every other breakpoint for us. All right. So we don't have to add anything else for responsiveness here. But I do want to control the width of the lightbox on desktop sizes, because 70% of a giant desktop, like that's a very large lightbox. So I just want to be like 1100 max is the width here. All right, so there's no padding by default inside. You can see that if I add an element, like a heading, that it's just everything's touching, right? So I actually don't want to add anything yet. I want this to be a 2-column lightbox. I want a visual on the left, and then I want our form on the right. And I'm going to show you how to build the form in WS Form as well. So you definitely want to stick around for that. But I'm building, in case you already have a form that you know you can pop in, and that's not a problem for you, then I want to build the lightbox first, because then you can maybe, pause the tutorial or ditch the tutorial or whatever and just go do your thing. All right, so I'm going to add a div, and I'm going to add some grid classes to this. So we're going to do columns 2, 3, which is a smaller column, and it's 2 columns with the first column being smaller than the second column. And you'll see when I add 2 more divs inside of that, how that looks. So we have a left-hand side, this is going to be for our visual, and we have a right-hand side, which is going to be for our form. All right, so the next thing I want to do is style the visual side of things. Now, there's 2 ways that you can do this. The easy way is with a background image. The harder way is with a object fit image, and then a darken layer, or like an overlay layer, and then your elements and absolute positioning and things like that. The easy way is not as valuable for a tutorial. So I'm just going to do it the hard way. Now, the hard way does allow you, if you've watched my tutorial on, what was it called? Like creating image cards properly in Oxygen. I went over, why this is important to do it the hard way, because you gain access to source set images and you gain access to alt tags. If that's important to you in this lightbox, the lightbox may not be, that stuff might not be necessary for a lightbox. But again, why don't we just show extra in the tutorial? So I'm just going to add an image here. And then I'm going to add I'm actually just going to steal this logo here, because that's going to be our visual inside as well. But I want this to be a background image, and I'm going to add a div. Like, I want it to behave as a background image, or appear to be a background image, but while it's actually an image. Because here's where I go to Media Library, and I can actually use source set to choose responsive image sizes, right? So that's how this would look. And then we have this div right here, which is going to be our overlay layer. And then we have this right here, which is going to be our branding overlaid on top of our visual. And that's all going to, when I said in the beginning that I'm going to create a slick lightbox, this is kind of like what I mean. It's not just a standard basic lightbox. It actually looks pretty slick. All right, so in order to make this all work, I have to choose the parent div that's containing all of these items, and I have to set its position to relative. We do that under layout. The next thing I'm going to do is select the image itself, and I'm going to set that to position absolute. And you're going to see that things have disappeared now. And you can see that we've also lost our lightbox has gone, it's folded up because our image is coming out of it. What we're going to do next is we're going to grab this div, which is our overlay div. And let me go ahead first. Let's go to our Modal window here. I'm going to go to size and spacing just for right now so that we can see what we're doing. Let's do like 40 VH. All right, cool. And I want to make sure that I put, relative on the correct one. Okay. So the div here, this is our overlay div. I'm going to go to layout, index, Z index is going to be 1, and it's going to be positioned absolute also. And then you're going to see it came back into view here. It's very small. So I'm going to need this to cover the entire image. So we're going to go width 100%, height 100%. And then on the image itself, I'm going to go ahead and set size and spacing on that. I want it to be 100%, and I want its height to be 100%. And now you see that it looks absolutely awful. And the reason it looks absolutely awful is if you watched my previous tutorial, then you know how to fix this with object fit cover. Okay. So now we have an image that is, the aspect ratio is not screwed up anymore. But you know, we have this problem of these divs being squished up here because there's really no content in them, because this absolutely positioned image is not in the flow of the document anymore. So it's not able to shift content around. So what we need to do is on the parent div of the columns overall, we need to set that to 100% height. And then we need to set it to stretch, which we can just do with a CSS class. And there we go. Okay, that was very complicated. I'm sorry if you had a hard time following all of that. I'm going to take the stretch class off again, just so you can see here. So these are the two column divs that are inside a parent div that's set to grid, right? So these by default, like when I made this very tall, these get left behind because they don't have a height set. If I go to them, actually there is, oh, okay, I was probably selecting the wrong layer. If we look at this one over here, there's no height, right? And then this is the parent div, the actual parent column div. It has no height either. So they're just doing their thing, right? They would get bigger if the content in them got bigger, but there is no content in them because an absolutely positioned element, according to its parent, doesn't really exist there. All right, so in order to get these two things to stretch all the way, I go to the parent, their parent, right? The one with the C columns 2, 3 on it, and I set that to stretch. Now you can do that, by the way. All that class does is it sets, well, let's just look at it. When I add it, you can see right there what it does. It sets the flex to horizontal, and it sets the flex vertical alignment to stretch. And so that stretches the two columns all the way down. So hopefully that explanation made a little bit of sense. You'll pick this stuff up. The more tutorials you watch, like you're gonna understand how these problems get solved over and over and over again. All right, so I'm gonna name this right here just so this stuff doesn't get too complicated. So we have an image, which is our background image. We have an overlay div, and then we have that logo image. The overlay I set to z-index 1 because I want that to be on top of the background image. And then the logo image, I want to be the top thing. So I'm going to go to layout z-index 2. All right, you're just numbering layers basically. Now what I'm going to do is go to that parent, and I just want this core to be in the middle. So we're going to go vertical, center, and then middle. And that's going to bring that down. So vertical flex, center horizontal alignment, middle vertical alignment gets the logo to where I want it to be. All right. Now let's take care of the overlay. Remember, the overlay is the second layer in this layer of 3. It's sandwiched in the middle. So I'm going to go to backgrounds, and I'm going to set a background color. We're going to use that brand color, and we're going to drop it to like 85. And so that's going to create a nice little effect there. I'm going to grab the image, the logo image on top. We're going to go to effects, because normally I would make like a white version of the image. I'm sorry, I'm not going to go that far with this. I'm just going to set the invert to 100%, and it's going to kind of make it light, even though it makes the dot gold. In fact, I might even be able to fix that by adding effect and filter. Oh, we can't add another filter. Okay. I was going to quickly add, a grayscale filter, but whatever. All right, we're good. We're good to go. All right, cool. So this is the div that I want my form to be in, right? And I need the padding because there is no padding here. So if we added a form, which I don't even have one, but I can add the container for it. So that's what it would look like. It'd be touching the edges, and that's obviously no good. That's not what I would call slick. So we're going to have to go to our fluid responsive font size calculator, which is, if you've watched my video on this, how to set up Oxygen properly, this is far more than a fluid response size calculator. So I'm playing around with these values here. I think on mobile, like the smallest viewport, I want 24 pixels of padding or 2.4 rem. And then on large desktop, I would like 80 or 8. So I'm going to grab this clamp function, And clamp, just to quickly tell you, makes automatically responsive padding, font sizes, what have you, whatever you use it on. So I'm going to go to padding none, and I'm going to paste in the clamp function, apply all, and that's going to give us really nice, healthy padding. And then what you're going to see is that on mobile, we get, well, it's messed up because I didn't put any utility classes on our main wrapper here. So remember I did the columns 2, 3. I didn't tell it what to do on mobile or anything else. So we're going to say on large devices, that's going to need to break down to one column. And now when I go view it, you can see we're one on top of the other, and I'm going to have to fix this issue here. But look at this form, and you see there's just a little bit of space around it now because the clamp function has scaled that padding down very nicely. We'll fix this all in a minute. Okay, anyway, just thinking out loud. All right, so I would like this form centered in the middle of this, so we're going to do the same trick. Vertical, center, middle, and now we have the form in the middle. All right, so I'm going to save my work for now, because we've come a long way and we don't want to lose anything. The next thing I'm going to do is add a really dope box shadow to this. So I'm going to go to resources brum.af. This is a really cool layered shadow generator. And I'm just going to grab all this box shadow code right here. And I'm going to make sure our modal is selected. And I'm going to go to custom CSS and I'm going to paste that in. So now we have a really dope box shadow on our modal. This nice little layered shadow effect. All right, cool. So at this point, I pretty much have my lightbox. We need to set how we're going to be triggering this. So I do want to round the corners. So I'm going to go to borders. Let's try 10 as our radius. And I want you to notice if I select this up here, I don't think we're rounding over here. And the reason for that is this section here is covering up the rounded corners. We can fix this, and we can fix it by going to Layout, Overflow, Hidden. And you're going to see now that we have that rounded corners effect over here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Save. And then we're going to take a look at how to trigger this modal window. All right. So I'm going to go to Trigger. And I'm going to select Show When User Clicks Element. And I want this to be a global thing that I can use on any element across any page on the website. So I'm going to call this something super obvious like .trigger CTA modal. All right, so whenever I add trigger CTA modal to another element, like a button, it's going to be able to trigger this modal window. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Save. And let's just go ahead and test this for right now. So I'm going to come up here. Let's do, and in fact, let's change this to get a quote. All right. So if I click this button and I add trigger CTA modal, that button should now be able to trigger the modal. Makes sense, right? So let's go check it out on the front end. Here's our little site that we've got right here. And there is our modal, which of course is blank. Let's reload the page again. It's getting a little delay there. All right, cool. It's working. And you can see we have our drop shadow. Like everything's working nice. Like that looks pretty slick, right? Even though it doesn't have a form in it. So let's go ahead and finish this thing up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a heading and I'm going to add text. We're going to make that like an H3 and I'm going to add text. That's cool. All right, we're going to move this up here. We're going to move this here. Let's just use owl spacing on this. If you haven't seen my owl spacing tutorial, you might want to go check that out. These two things are a little bit too far away. In fact, that owl spacing L might be a bit much. Let's do owl spacing M. That looks better. And let's say, get a free instant. That won't be instant. Get a free quote. All right, we won't oversell it. We won't oversell it. All right, let's see. To get a free quote, please fill out the form below. We'll be in touch within 24 hours. That sounds right. Okay. So these two things are a little far apart for my taste. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap this with a div, and I'm going to throw the text in that with it. That way, and then I'm going to use a center class on this. And that way I can keep those two things together while keeping them apart from the form. And this might be an area where I play with that owl spacing and go large again. I'm not sure yet. And then you can use another owl class on this, or you could use a utility class just to get like these to be a little bit apart, right? Yeah, let's go with owl spacing large. I go back and forth on this stuff a lot. Let's add another text element. This is what's cool about owl spacing though. Look, this is already properly spaced, right? I did a whole tutorial on owl spacing if you haven't seen it yet. I'm going to do text. Okay, that's cool. Let's just not let me make a class. All right, text small. And this would be like the "we won't spam you ever," right? That standard line that you put in all the time. All right, look, I mean, look what we're doing here. This is starting to really shape up, starting to look really, really good, I think. So we're going to go down and check out our mobile. Look at our mobile responsiveness is coming along because I do things naturally, you know, with it's this WS form thing that's throwing it off. That'll be fixed when we actually insert the form. But it's because I use naturally mobile responsive things like clamp for paddings and such. You don't have to do a lot of extra work for mobile optimization because it's all happening automatically. All right, I think what we're ready to do is hop over to our form builder. So we're going to go onto the back end. We're going to go to WS form. Let me take a minute to just talk about WS form. It's a little known form builder, I feel like. I don't see many people talking about it at all, which is an extreme mistake. This is one of the most powerful, most intuitive form builders that exists. I ditched Fluent Forms. I've used 10 different form builders. All right. I'm telling you, WS Form, its extensions, what it does is light years beyond most of the form builders that are out there. And again, it's like relatively like not talked about that much, and I can't believe it. WS Form needs more love. So I'm going to put a link to WS Form in the description. It is an affiliate link, but here's the thing, guys. Like I have plenty of money. I have a very successful agency, right? If you like these videos and you want to support my content, use the affiliate link and I'll get a little commission. I don't do the affiliate promotion just to make money. Like I'm not telling you, use this tool because I get a commission. Look, I tell you to use Oxygen. There's no affiliate program for Oxygen, right? I don't care. I'm telling you to use the tools that I think are best. That's the bottom line. Full transparency. So if you want to support me doing these tutorials a little bit, then use the affiliate link. If you're like, hey, screw you, Kevin. Yeah, thanks for the tutorial. I'm out. Then don't use, like, just go to wsform.com and you know, buy it, whatever. I don't care. So that's my little spiel on that. So WS Form, we're going to go to add new. We could use a contact us thing, but you know, this is a tutorial. Like, why would we just click this button? That's what I would do in real life, but I'm just going to show you how to build it from scratch. So we're going to go ahead and use blank, and we're going to call this get a quote because we like to organize things on the back end, right? Maybe if I didn't just hit the button to jump out of the form as I'm building it, that would be helpful. All right, so we're going to drag some fields in. So we're going to drag a text. And we're going to drag, and by the way, I actually don't use like WS Form extensively. I might have to figure out some of this stuff because I have peoples that do this, right? All right, I already did the email. It's just been a while is what I'm trying to say. Phone, email. We don't want like, you know, to ask for their whole life story. We just want some contact info. So then I'm going to come down to buttons and throw in a submit button. You can actually do tabs in your forms, like, you know, out of the box, man. WS Form is so powerful. And then there's just this, you know, columns stuff that you can do. Like, look how easy this stuff is, right? So I want this to be the first name, and I can control the breakpoints for these fields as well. The only thing that I don't like about this, it's unintuitive, is you have to save literally after every step. So when I put in first name there, I clicked out of it and it didn't save it. You literally have to hit save. Then I can go to this one and I can say last name. So if anybody from WS Form is watching, I know there's probably a reason for this, but you know, maybe you could not make us save 5 million times while we're doing the form. All right, this is phone. We're going to make this required, and I'm going to hit save. And then I'm going to also make the first name required, and we're going to hit save. And then we're going to make the email obviously required, and I'm going to hit save. And then the submit, you never want the button to say submit. So request a quote. Okay. Or how about this? Let's make it more friendly. Send me my quote. All right. That's cool. Hit save. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay. So basically we have a contact form here. Now we can go up to actions and we're going to save. These are the actions that are going to happen when somebody submits the form. So we're going to save the submission. We're going to not show a message. All right. We're going to take this away. We are going to send an email. We also are going to do, I'm not going to go ahead and make all the page, but this is what you would do in real life. You would choose a redirect step and it would be like to thanks, because you want to be able to track conversions to a goal page. You don't want to just show them a form. Or show them a thank you message on the form. When should this action run? When the form is submitted. So they're going to go to this URL. So I'm going to hit save and close on that. And then I'm going to check out what this email says. Okay. So from address is from admin, from email address. Let's go ahead and put in their email address there. And then you can name all these fields. I'm not just going to, this isn't a WS form tutorial, guys. This is a how to make a CTA lightbox. From display name is going to be first name. And then, okay, thank you. Let's move on to, okay, yes, CC. Yeah, I want it to go to me. The reply to address definitely needs to be their email. You don't want to mess that part up. Subject, we'll say new contact, and I'll put that in brackets, new quote request. This isn't a contact form. New quote request. It is late in the day. And then I'm going to say it's from first name and last name. Okay, so that's going to be the subject of our email, basically. And then it automatically puts the form submission stuff in there. So I'm confident now we can just hit save and be done with it. All right, so let's go ahead and publish this form. And we're going to go ahead and put this into our CTA lightbox. I'm going to refresh this page real quick. So we're going to have to wait for the Oxygen builder to load. While we do that, let's come back because I did miss one step. So, and I'll show you what I missed, but the labels are going to appear above the form inputs, which is going to make our CTA, like our lightbox, really big. It's going to take up a lot of space, basically. So I want to put those inside of the inputs so this form looks really, really clean. Let's see if it's going to pull up here real quick. And I'll show you what I mean. And this is, again, when I say we're going to build a slick lightbox, these are the kind of things that I'm thinking about when we're going to build a slick lightbox. Okay. So let's go down all the way, and I'm clicking on WS form, and I'm now select the form because it's going to be there in the dropdown, and I'm going to hit apply, and then I'm going to hit save. All right. Now, remember we set a height on this whole thing. We need to go take that off because that is now interfering with our stuff here. Boom. See how this is nice and it adapts, right? It perfectly adapts to all of this. All right. And then I'm going to say left, middle left, top left. I don't know if those classes are in here or not. Okay, no problem. Let's just go to typography left align. That should fix it. Save. All right, so we have this issue of having these labels, and I just don't want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to each one, and we're going to say show label, take off the check mark, take the label, and put it in as the placeholder. Save. Now I'm going to go to last name, grab it, no, and placeholder. Save. Let's do that with the phone number. Phone, no, show label, placeholder. Save. Email, grab it, no, show label, placeholder, save. Excellent. Okay. Now when we save and we actually go view the page and we click our get a quote button, there we are. Oh, I know what I did. Okay, let's go back to here. I didn't publish it. You got to publish your changes in WS form. All right, let's go reload and get a quote. There we go. That looks pretty slick. Our owl spacing is a little out of control, guys. All right, let's go. Let's go back to owl spacing large. We're going to put in owl spacing medium, and we're going to hit save, and then we're going to check it out. And then I'm going to show you, you can definitely style the actual form. All right, that spacing is much, much, much better. And the way we style the form in WS is you actually go to the customizer, and then you'll see WS form. And really the only things I wanted to like, and this stuff, I would probably use custom CSS for all of this. Font size small, font size weight, and line height. Okay, that's all good. Colors is what I wanted, right? Primary, I don't know what that light blue is on the other thing. I'm just going to guess. But if we wanted to, make that match more. Advanced grid gutter is a bit aggressive. I want that to be more like 16. And transitions, borders, typography, fonts. I think all that's good now. Okay. Let's just hit publish. And let's see what we've got. Okay, let's go back to, if we can find our page here. There it is. Okay, so we've got a nice responsive. Let's go down, see what's going on here. Okay, we need to fix this up. That's a little not cool, right? And that's very, very simple. So we could actually probably get away with just stealing where's this? Yeah. So if I go to this div right here, remember that clamp function we put in? If I just drop it in over here on this parent, I bet you we solve our spacing woes. Save. Let's see. Did we? I could have just done this in the builder. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Look how smooth and slick that is. I think it's slick. I think it's slick. What do you think? Drop a comment, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. But look, here's the power of this. We're not done yet, right? Remember that class that we put in? Trigger CTA Modal? We can actually put that, what I would now do is you put this all over the site. Like all these buttons can trigger the CTA Modal. And then in WS form, let's go back there real quick. You can actually have this input a hidden field, right? So let me go to cancel this. Okay. Let's go URL hidden like this. And then you can pass the URL value. Let's blog URL. I think right there. Yeah, blog. Hold on. There's a page URL. This is the part where I've got peoples for this. I know it's possible. I might not be able to find the field right off the top of my head. But what we do is we pass the URL that the form was submitted on so that we always know exactly where the leads are coming from. It might be public URL right there of the post. All right, save and close. So if that's not it, sorry. I've got people's, you get people's, or just ask WS Form. They have amazing support. That's the other thing about it. But it is possible to just pass the URL that the form was submitted on, which is normally like somebody might object and say, oh, well, if we put these all over the site, we don't know where our leads are coming from. But you do. You actually have a lot of transparency on where your leads are coming from. So I just put Trigger CTA Modal on all these. And then like here, these links are going to get it too. Trigger CTA Modal, come down, Trigger CTA Modal, here, Trigger CTA. And there's no styling attached to this, right? So it's not changing the style of anything. It's just our trigger for getting this CTA Modal to fire. So I go to the front end. And so if somebody is like, browsing the page and they're like, oh, these features sold me, right? Let me go ahead and get a quote. There it is, right? Or if these features didn't sell them, they're working, oh, that's a feature that I really need. All right, they get a quote, right? So you see how this works. And if they went page to page and did it on any other page, it would work just as well. And it would always tell you the URL that they submitted the form on. And it looks really slick. And it's just, I think, a really great implementation, especially for business sites. So that's how to create a slick CTA lightbox in Oxygen. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Definitely hit the like, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, bell, notification. You know what to do. You know the drill. And if you have any requests for a tutorial, drop those in the comments below as well, because I am taking requests. I'm watching. I'm seeing what everybody is requesting, and I'm adding stuff to the list. So if you want something specifically, let's get a comment in, and I will add it for you. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.